Shabbat Shalom. This, of course, is the most wonderful Torah reading of the year, where we have the Ten Commandments. We have the idea of Jethro and the idea of a righteous Gentile and one who is a model for us. And it's really important and actually very apropos to our celebration today of the leadership of our congregation, because if you think about it, this Parsha is actually the model which becomes the ideal for the Jewish community. So, if we start at the beginning of the Parsha, the Israelites have crossed the sea, Moses is there, he's the leader, and he's really the only leader, although Aaron and Miriam are there, but they're not big in this Parsha. And as they stand there, Jethro comes with Moses' wife and kids, and Jethro has heard all the wonderful things that happened in Egypt, and he comes to visit. And he watches as Moses does his leadership role. Now, we don't know how many people were there in the desert, but there were a lot of people for one leader. And Moses was the only judge. He was the only one who could solve problems. So he would sit from morning to night listening to the people's problems and solving them. Now, on one level, we would think that's great, because here we have the leader of the community, the president of the United States, or wherever, actually listening to people and hearing their concerns. But we have a problem with it too, in that if we have this leader doing that all day, then nothing gets done, because yes, the little concerns are taken care of, but the big picture is never thought about, because he doesn't have time to think about where we're going, because we're stuck here solving the day-to-day problems. And so Jethro says to him, this is not the way to do things. Instead, you need to have different levels of leadership to take care of the day-to-day issues of the people. In other words, you need to delegate your authority, Moses, so that things can actually get done. And so Moses does appoint leaders of the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands, and they become the leaders of the people, and they pop up periodically through the Torah. Now, I was thinking about this because if we think about the Torah, especially the book of Numbers, we go from rebellion to rebellion to rebellion as different people want to be leaders. But I noticed that the leaders of the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands never rebel. They're there taking care of the day-to-day business while other people think I should be king. It is good to be king. Oh, believe that. But they never rebel. They're always there, dependable. They're the people who make sure things actually happen. And so I was thinking about that there could be no better Parsha than this week as we think about installing and thanking the leadership of our congregation, because they're here day to day, just as our ancestors were, the leaders then, making sure that things get taken care of, making sure that the lights are on, that we have a beautiful Kiddush lunch, making sure that all the things happen that need to be happening. They, with the staff, really make things happen. And so as we think of the leadership, we also should thank the staff that help make that possible. But I was thinking about another teaching from today's Parsha that helps us as we think of the leadership of our congregation. This morning, as I think everybody knows, having just stood through it, we read the very long, or at least Ben read, the very long Ten Commandments. And one of them says that you should not make a pesel lecha, you should not make a graven image, which usually means for yourself, that I am the Lord your God. And the graven image usually is something external, an idol, or something material that we worship rather than worshiping God. But there's a fascinating Hasidic teaching from the Degel Machaneh Yehuda that I studied this week that actually turns this teaching on its head and really is quite profound. What it says is, you shall not make yourself a graven image. Now, what does that mean? It sounds strange. Well, the Degel is beginning with the idea that all of us are created in the image of God. But he's saying also that within us, there also is that spark of the divine that connects us with every human being and actually connects us with God. So the question is, do we want to actualize the spark, which is God, or do we want to just be an image of God? And for the Degel, being an image, that's a pesel, that's an idol. Being just satisfied in being like God in some external way, but really the internal aspect is what's important. So the Degel says, when people show leadership, when people take on responsibility in the community, when people are tzaddikim, when they're teachers, when they're volunteers, then they reach to a height that's as great that when we look at those people, we're not seeing just the image of God, but we're seeing God, God's self. That they are actualizing their image of God, their actual, not their image, but their actuality being the face of God in the world. So that when you look at our leadership, the board members, you see people who are actualizing God in our presence. When you see the people who are standing here davening, you see people who are actually actualizing God in our presence. When you see people working and making sure everything happens behind the scenes, then you're seeing God actualized in our presence. And these people can be all of us. That when we achieve the best we can be, when we work to be the best Jews and human beings we can be, then we are not only in the image of God, but actually we're actualizing God in the presence in the world. And for me, that says when you see people volunteering, when you see people working hard for the synagogue, smile at them and thank them and appreciate their work because they're helping to achieve and make God's presence for us and for the universe. Well, for the world anyway. I don't know about the universe. So and now I want to thank our volunteers. And as we do so, I want to thank especially those people who are leaving the board today. So I'd like, if you're exiting the board, Kathy Beda, Hannah Furman, Dan Kahn, and Rivka Shenhav, please rise if you're comfortable doing so. And I want to thank you, and let's all look at these people and appreciate how hard they've worked and how they have helped our synagogue to be maintained and to continue as an important presence here in Saratoga. So let's thank them as they move on from their responsibilities on the board, no doubt, to other work and other volunteer opportunities. But we thank you for that and for the work to come. And now, so they are uninstalled. So we're twisting the light bulb the wrong way, I guess. Now we're going to turn the light bulb the other way. We're going to turn the light bulb so it's actually on. And we thank those people, and now we turn and install our officers who've been elected for a two-year term or a partial one-year term if they're finishing out somebody else's. So we call upon Irene Spector, Neil Shapiro, Marty Newman, Art Singer, Eric Lewis, and Stephen Schleimer to please rise at this time. And we thank you for your service in the past to the congregation and the community, and we look forward to your leadership as you help to actualize God's presence here at Beth David. So let's give them a big hand. I actually was tempted to go to one of those hobby stores and get actually a big hand, but you're probably lucky I didn't. And now we want to thank our new directors at large for a new two-year term or for a partial year term, so that we call upon Ginny Baird, Jennifer Blostein, Kristen Gustafson, Doug Isaacs, who's not here, who's ill, and Frank Yashar. Please rise at this time. So we have a few of that group, but we want to thank those people who are our leaders of the future, who've taken on leadership and are really, the officers do a lot of work, but those who are just members at large also serve the community and do a lot of work. So let's give you a big hand and thank you for your leadership. And now we want to turn to our officers who are continuing into their second year of their term. Nathan Handelsman, Bill Beta, Susan Greenberg Englander, and Michael Berman. Please rise at this time. You have been the stalwarts of leaders for our community, so we thank you for your service. And now finally, we turn to our directors at large, continuing in the second year of their terms. Wendy Askenas, Bonnie Hirsch, and Leah Newman. For those who are here, please rise. Oh, Bonnie Slavic. There's always somebody who's left off. But all of these, your contribution is still very valued and important, even though I should have looked at the other. I have two versions of the list, and one is right and one is missing just a little bit. But thank you so much for your service, Bonnie, as well. And we thank you for your continued work. The people who are members at large, as I say, do so many different things and are leaders in so many ways. And finally, we have two other board members who are not elected but are there and work hard nonetheless. Howard Gannis, who is our Hazak representative, and Wendy Glasser, our immediate past president. So would they rise, and let's thank them for their service as well. Volunteers will be thanked in a few weeks, but thank you to everyone here who is both volunteering as leadership of our congregation, but volunteering in so many ways to make sure that our community runs so smoothly. Leadership demands devotion. Good leadership is never automatic. The heritage of our tradition records that in ancient times, as Rabbi Asi lay dying, his nephew saw that he was weeping and asked, "Why do you weep? Could there be any part of our tradition which you have not studied or taught? Your disciples are sitting here before you. Could there not be any act of loving kindness which you have not done? I hardly think so. And over again, above your qualities, you have never intruded into community affairs. You have never tried to become appointed to any office to the needs of the community." And Rav Asi said, that's exactly the problem. That's why I weep. Perhaps I should be condemned because I was able to lead and chose not to. So we need to thank all of those members of our community who are able to lead and have chosen to do so. And may that be a model for all of us when we're asked to choose to lead as well. Shabbat Shalom.